Half the electorate are women. And here we have one of the candidates for president engaging in a weigh-in of some kind. What do you make of this kind of conversation from one of your opponents, Donald Trump?
Well, horrible. And I was actually reading about it in the Times today, where he accompanied her to the gym, where he subjected her to exercising in front of the camera. I guess that was his role in the Miss Universe contest. Look, how does it get any worse?
She was 18 at the time. She was an immigrant from Venezuela trying to make it in this country. And what does it tell you about Mr. Trump? Governor Well.
You know, it's bad, but take a number. You know, a lot of things are bad in his approach to things and the way he talks about people, tries to set group against group, stir up envy and resentment, even hatred. It's the opposite of how I think a presidential campaign should be approached.
Were you surprised when I interviewed him early this year and I asked him about his position, which is now pro-life? That's the position he's taking. And I asked him, well, what should the government do when they find out there was an abortion? He said, well, there should be some kind of punishment for a woman. That's what he told me. What do you make of that?
I was shocked by that.
You're libertarian, so explain how a libertarian looks at the issue of choice.
Well, how can there be a more difficult issue than anyone is going to face, and by anyone, the woman involved, and that should be the woman involved's choice, period.
Governor?
Well, you don't know what you're going to get when you ask Mr. Trump a question. The previous year, he was asked, what's your position on abortion? He said, I'm pro-choice, of course. I'm from New York. You know, it's just random. It's like a broken clock. He's right twice a day.
When you asked him that question, though, at that point in the campaign, maybe he had said, in my opinion, 50 things that would have disqualified anyone else from being president. Now that number, I think, is somewhere closer to 150.
Let's talk about the other candidate, the other major party candidate who's running against you. That's Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, former senator from New York, former First Lady, of course, a hell of a resume. But she also has a resume with regarding wars. And she supported regime change with regard to the Iraq War, supported President Bush. She supported getting involved militarily to knock off Gaddafi in Libya. She now today, I believe, still supports some sort of no-fly military role in Syria. She seems to like U.S. military involvement. Where do you guys stand on those questions? Or should we be a country that gets involved in so regularly in regime change in the Middle East?
We should not be involved in regime change. And something I would like to point out is there have been 3 polls now conducted among active military personnel, and I've been on top of those 3 polls. So I would like to think it's based on what I am saying regarding this. We're putting our military in a terrible situation. Look, we maintain that if we're attacked, we're going to attack back, that we should have an invincible national defense. But when we do involve ourselves in regime change, we literally get ourselves on both sides of the issue. In Syria, for example, you just can't make up what has happened. And I don't think it was intentional on her part or Obama's part, certainly not on Bush's part, but this is what happens when we get involved in regime change.
And, you know, Governor Johnson likes to point out that wars have unintended consequences, both economic and military and moral. You know, I spent a lot of time abroad after the Iraq invasion of 2003. Nobody can tell me that we didn't have pay a moral penalty for that in the world at large. And militarily, all the weapons that we armed the rebels with in Syria and Libya wind up in the hands of ISIS. That's militarily unintended.
When we go to war, nobody talks about what the calamities are going to be. The old Europeans, they've been through 2,000 years of war over religion, usually, and they know what a war is. Both sides lose, eventually. Yeah, I've spent some time recently with military guys coming home, mostly men, who come home with arms missing, legs missing, disfigured, blind, deaf. In one case, I met a guy with both. Does anybody think about that when they put our guys into combat in a war that has questionable value to the country?
So here's what I'm getting really emotional over. And by the way, I blew this Aleppo question, okay? I want to take full responsibility for that.
What have you done to correct the fact you didn't know what Aleppo was, or where it was, or what it was?
Well, forget about Aleppo completely.
I can't forget it.
Forget about Aleppo completely and get to the root of what it's all about.
What was it that you didn't appreciate and that you now appreciate?
I appreciated it from the very beginning that because a politician can dot the I's and cross the T's on some geographic location or the name of some foreign dictator, that in that context, now we should believe them when it comes to these interventions. And as a result of those interventions, our men and servicewomen are getting killed, they're getting maimed, they're getting injured for the rest of their lives, and in this case, hundreds of thousands of innocents in these countries that get caught in the crossfire of these civil wars.
Is your point that a resume doesn't give you discernment?
Well,
is that your point? Like Hillary Clinton's resume didn't prepare her for the right decision.
Well, in this case, politicians that beat their chest over the fact they've got a microphone that gets stuck in their face. What are you going to do about these atrocities? You know what? The atrocities are real. But what's not being realized is that when we go in to support regime change to address those atrocities, the situation ends up to be the same or worse in many situations.
Okay, where's your ticket now on the question of U.S. involvement in where it's hot right now, Syria? Well, should we be involved with military troops on the ground?
No, we should not. And what I've been saying now for 7 weeks is that we need to involve Russia in this to come to a diplomatic solution to this. Of course, this ceasefire that was negotiated here a week ago, it was wrought with problems from the very beginning because we are supporting the Free Syrian Army, but they're arm in arm with the Islamists. Well, we're not arm in arm with the Islamists. You've got Raqqa, you've got ISIS. We're supporting the Kurds, but the Kurds are sideways with Turkey, who are our ally, but not as good an ally as they once were because of Iraq.
Except for the question of Vladimir Putin, can we trust or rely upon him as a partner in this kind of peace effort, if there is going to be one?
You know, I think Gary predicted that the only way out was going to be a ceasefire involving Russia to some extent, and that's what's happened, and it's blown up. I mean, it didn't help that we killed 60 Syrian soldiers. It doesn't help that you've got all these different rebel groups over there. You've got the original rebels, you've got ISIS, you've got Nusra, you've got Jabhat, everyone waiting to be the next Al-Qaeda, and it's a complete mess. And today's news about, you know, the rocket that shot down the passenger plane in Ukraine in 2014 came in by truck from Russia, boom, down the passenger plane, goes out at night, that same night, so no one will tell it came from Russia. Of course, Putin knew all about that, and that's not even taking responsibility for what you do. It makes you less inclined to say, Russia, let's work together.
Let's get with the main thrust here. If you tend to be dovish, I tend to be dovish. Should somebody like me vote for you guys or Hillary Clinton?
In the regard of military...
Dovish versus hawkish. Simple question.
Yes, you should.
You're more dovish.
You should, yes. Okay. Well, by dovish...
Are you in on this?
An invincible national defense.
Okay.
I'm with him. I'm all in.
But the unintended consequences...
We're going to get back to this, I'm sure, with the questions as we get them. Let's look at this exchange from Monday's debate with 84 million people watching. When Donald Trump defended his birther crusade, where he said that basically the President of the United States is an illegal immigrant who somehow snuck in the country, went to college, got into Harvard Law Review, got everything somehow through secretive sort of Manchurian candidate style, secretive conspiracy theory stuff. Anyway, here he is explaining and defending.
We're talking about racial healing in this segment. What do you say to Americans?
Well, it was very, I say nothing. I say nothing because I was able to get him to produce it. He should have produced it a long time before. I say nothing. And I think I did a great job and a great service, not only for the country, but even for the president in getting him to produce his birth certificate.
So Donald Trump was doing a favor to the President of the United States by saying, show me your driver's license, basically, since you're the first African-American president. That's what he was doing. Anyway, Michelle Obama, the First Lady, spoke out on the birther issue, conspiracy theory today. Let's hear her point of view. Let's take a look.
There are those who questioned and continue to question for the past 8 years whether my husband was even born in this country. And let me say, hurtful, deceitful questions deliberately designed to undermine his presidency, questions that cannot be blamed on others or swept under the rug by an insincere sentence uttered at a press conference.
Trump has said that Hillary Clinton's people started this. What do you make of that, Governor?
Well, based on my following the story, and I'm not a rock thrower, I've never, ever said a word about this. I just always thought it was BS from the very beginning, and it just continues to be BS.
No, but that's the biggest granddaddy of a whopper of all, him saying, oh, Hillary Clinton started this, I'm ending it. I mean, that's pathetic. It's so palpably a lie.
Why would he do it? Who is he winning with that?
I don't think that Donald knows when the curtain is down and when the curtain is up. I mean, I think he's a loose man with the truth. He has a sometimes he seems to have a tenuous hold on reality. This is the guy we're going to give the football to? I mean, please.
Explain the football.
The nuclear codes.
Yeah, the nuclear codes.
And he wants to arm, Japan and South Korea with nuclear weapons so we can have more nations with nuclear weapons rather than fewer.
60 Minutes the other night showed that the President of the United States, whoever it is, has 10 minutes. If there's an alert that comes up that looks like something's coming at us, a nuclear weapon, to decide which of the thousands of weapons we're going to fire in that 10 minutes has to decide that. He gets some advice from a general. He can ask a few questions, but in 10 minutes, you got to decide what part of the world we're going to blow up. Which of these two candidates would you trust with that assignment if you don't win?
Me. No.
If you win.
It would be me. It would be me.
Second choice?
When you weigh,
you think Trump and Hillary are equally qualified to be commander-in-chief in a nuclear age?
When it comes.
No, okay. What are you saying? I want some answers here. This is hardball.
I don't know that Gary and I are totally on the
I like
same
it when you disagree.
on this, but,
let's disagree here.
But no, Hillary Clinton is clearly qualified to be commander-in-chief and president of the United States.
How about the other guy?
Donald Trump is clearly not qualified, and I've encouraged him almost with affection to think of some other job or profession he'd like to. And I've suggested the laundry business. He could do great in the laundry business. He's got business smarts, but president of the United States is just the wrong tree to be barking up for him.
I think she's gonna press the button. Well, if confronted with that 10 minutes, she's going to be hawkish. She's going to be more hawkish in that role.
You think she's got a happy trigger?
I think that she's not going to err on the side of not being the aggressor.
Okay. Well, let's talk about something else that we probably are going to have to face more immediately than nuclear war decisions, which is climate. And look at this audience, average age 20, 23, maybe at the most 23 right now. I think we're above the average, by the way. And they're going to live in this climate. And we have one of the candidates saying there is no climate threat, even though anybody who lives in Massachusetts sees the water level coming up here. It's coming up everywhere. The ice, the snows of Kilimanjaro have long gone.
No, I've been to Kilimanjaro. There's still a long ways from.
Oh, okay,
living.
all right. So you're different. So, okay, so you've been up there.
I've been up there. It's
well,
a
you've
big
been.
chunk of
my
ice,
wife's been there. Well, let's talk about your first-hand report on the top of Kilimanjaro. Do you think climate change is real? Because one of the candidates challenging you guys, Hillary Clinton, believes it's very real. The other says it's a hoax cooked up in China.
No, I think it's real. I think that it's real, and that we as human beings are demanding less carbon emission, and that's a good thing, and we're getting it. We're 16% of the world's carbon load, so let's not...
Okay, you're a libertarian. How does a libertarian avoid overregulation? Because if we do think fossil fuel use is dangerous to the environment, something has got to stop that use. How do we do it with the libertarian environment?
Well, in this case, the free market has dealt with coal. The free market has,
really?
Has bankrupted marginalized coal. 36% of the load remains coal, but if you are an electrical, if you supply the electrical grid, which is currently 36% coal, you're not going to replace it with coal because natural gas is still lower in price. So free market, natural, everything is being built right now.
You wouldn't have federal controls on emissions.
No, I think the federal government has a role to protect us against harm. I put pollution in that category. So federal government setting standards, setting scientific standards regarding
emissions.
Harm? Yeah, you bet.
Because of the smell or what? Bad air, but not on the climate issue.
We're going to breathe it. We're going to breathe it. We're going to inhale it. Just the health consequences.
Basically, you don't have a problem with the government action to deal with climate. You don't have a problem with that, generally.
Well, I think that free market does a better job of it, Chris, and I'll cite for you right as an example.
On this thing? On the free market solution to climate?
Environmental regulation is an exception to my general libertarianism because the economies of scale are so great, you can't rely on the market or a business or an individual to stop environmental degradation, which, as Gary points out, harms all of us. And avoiding harm to our fellow men is one of the legit roles of government.
I support the Environmental Protection Agency. I think it comes under the heading of doing us harm, and but for the Environmental Protection Agency, there would continue to be polluters.
One thing I like about libertarianism, vice presidents can disagree with presidents.
Well, we're doing this as a partnership, too. Right. I hope we establish that here tonight.
I'm saying it. Let me get a question. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Brendan Luke. I'm from Westchester, New York, and my question for Governor Johnson is, what do you have to say to people that think a vote for you is a waste of a vote?
Well, that a wasted vote is voting for somebody you don't believe in. That's a wasted vote. And right now, we've come up among young people to be tied with Hillary among young people. We're leading among independents. So what I say is offering, the two of us, offering a first vote to people, that's something that we're very proud of.
Well, let's get to some of the things, because everybody sees this happening in the Democratic Party. They know you guys are doing well among younger voters, millennials. Look at this. This is in the Hill newspaper today, in Capitol Hill. Democrats panicked by third-party candidates drawing support away from Hillary Clinton are ramping up their attacks against Gary Johnson and warning that a vote for a third party is a vote for Donald Trump. And now listen to President Obama today on that very point. Here's President Obama warning about you guys.
If there's one message I want to deliver to everybody, if you don't vote, that's a vote for Trump. Wow. If you don't vote, that's a vote for Trump. If you vote for a third-party candidate who's got no chance to win, that's a vote for Trump.
What do you make of that? He's talking about you guys.
You know, let me tell you the way I make that for young people.
Yeah, so you disagree with the president, obviously.
Well, yes. Neither Trump nor Clinton is going to do anything regarding Medicaid and Medicare. So I'm going to get my health care. I'm going to get my retirement. But you all are going to foot that bill, and you're not going to get anything. Yeah, I think there's a reason why young people are supporting us.
So they're not going to. Neither guy's going to reform the situation.
Nobody's going to reform the situation. I mean, we're headed to bankruptcy with regard to the size and scope of government.
You know, Chris,
the government's too big, you argue.
What's going on this year is that both the parties, both the establishment parties in Washington, are trying to scare everybody, brainwash them into thinking you got to vote for an R, you got to vote for a D, because we have a monopoly on power in Washington, and we'd like to keep the monopoly. I would suggest they haven't done a great job in Washington in the last 15 years getting the people's business done, because they so obviously want to kill each other, just like the campaigns want to kill each other.
We're going to talk a lot about that, Governor Weld and Governor Johnson. We're going to get some more questions from the audience here when we get back. It's at the University of New Hampshire. Back to Governor Johnson and Weld. This is great. We're back at the University of New Hampshire, a beautiful campus up here. And we've got Governor Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, the Libertarian ticket. You know, I grew up like you guys arguing libertarianism, and it always looked good when you're younger. I mean, great. Let's talk about the basics of libertarianism. I guess one of the ways it began to develop as an argument is, why should a young guy or woman who want to ride a motorbike or motorcycle, a big one, a big hog if they want to ride one, why should the government tell them to wear a helmet? Why should somebody in New York like Bloomberg tell us we can't buy a Coke bigger than 16 ounces? Why can't we buy a big Coke? Why can't we get on a motorcycle if we want to and not put a helmet on? The nanny state, it's called. What's libertarianism about in that regard? I guess it's against all that.
Well, no. Well, in this case,
Are you for helmets?
I wear a helmet.
But do you want to be told to wear a helmet by the government?
No, I don't want to be told to wear a helmet. Right. And there's an organ donor shortage out there, so there's unintended consequences regarding everything, Chris. Everything.
You're making the news. Did you mean that? No, you didn't. Did you mean that?
Well, how about somebody with a sense of humor as President of the United States?
That's good. All right. That's why I asked you. You know why I asked you? Because the way print journalism works is it just types the words down. It doesn't say funny joke here, parenthesis. Things like this 16-ounce thing and all this stuff. They will argue, the progressives will say, hey, if we have to pay for hospital care for diabetes, if we have to pay for the crash site and get the guy who's on a motorbike back to the hospital, put him under take care of the surgery, take care of him, get him back to health. If society has to pay those costs, can't society say wear a helmet?
So in the case of, let me use Bloomberg as an example. Sure. I think he took a real leadership role. He's doing that
on cigarettes or on sodas?
Sodas. He takes a leadership role. He's a mayor of a town. He wants to implement this. I don't want to implement this in the state. I don't want to implement this in the federal government. But you know what? I think as a result of what he said, I think we now have the 8-ounce can of Coke. Okay. I think we've come to a better awareness nationwide because of what Bloomberg did in New York.
But it was a law. Are you against? Aren't you against laws?
I am, but his action, his leadership in this area. Michelle Obama, when she talks about nutrition, that is leadership. Yeah. Do we legislate that? No, because then we end up, because then it's so successful, the reduction in the size of sodas, that I guess at some point we'll criminalize it to make sure that everybody complies with it.
Okay, let's talk about dope, okay?
Yeah.
Why do they call it dope?
Why do they call it dope?
Marijuana. Why do they call it dope?
I don't know why that came about. I mean, and I'll just tell you, based on my having done it for the first time, which probably a few of the kids in here in this room have maybe had the same experience, why do they call it dope?
You're looking at me. Is this funny? Or you're giving me the look. Am I supposed to respond to that? What do you want me to think?
Well,
you don't think it's dope?
Well, it's the safest. It's so much safer than everything else that's out there, starting with alcohol.
Well, let me read you something from your platform, because I know you know this. Basically, this is the Libertarian platform. You guys have read it, right?
Of course. I read it.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
You don't have to agree with every word.
Okay, well, here's some words you might have some interesting comments on. We favor the repeal of all laws creating crimes, that's in quotes, without victims, such as the use of drugs for medicinal or recreational purposes. That's pretty clear. Now, marijuana, okay, that's legal in Colorado. It's got different degrees of legality or non-criminality in different states. Well, what about we move it a little further? Recreational drugs. Some people might say cocaine is recreational. Some might say crack cocaine. Some might say meth. They might say heroin. Where do you draw the line in terms of libertarianism on drugs?
Well, so we are the Libertarian nominees. And as a governor of New Mexico, I was the highest elected official in 1999.
Did you mean that literally?
To call. You borrowed that from the other day. I'm the highest elected official to call. I'll use it again.
Okay.
All right, governor of New Mexico called for the legalization of marijuana in '99. I'm saying the same things today that I was saying then. I only favor the legalization of marijuana, but I believe we are going to do that. And
it doesn't
when
say
we do that
here in your platform,
no,
it says recreational drugs.
But platform is one thing, and by the way, we can extend that to Republicans. We can extend that to Democrats.
They're not serious sometimes. I agree with that.
Well,
so in this case, it's not a serious statement, recreational drugs.
No, but let me extend, too, that when we legalize marijuana, and I've said this since '99, I believe we're going to come to a quantum leap when it comes to the understanding of the drug issue, and it's going to start with recognizing drugs first as a health issue rather than a criminal justice issue.
Let's get to the students. It's about them. First question.
My name is Hannah Mathews. I'm from Heber, Maine, and I'm a student here at University of New Hampshire, and this is a question for Governor Johnson. What are your thoughts on combating climate change as well as potentially moving towards a more self-sufficient country in the future?
Well, climate change, that it is man-caused, that we should reduce carbon emission, that it's happening. We're 16% of the world's carbon emission load. I don't want to put us out front to the point that we lose jobs over this, but I do believe that we're demanding less carbon emission. And as an example, coal, marginal coal assets have been bankrupted right now. Why would you build a coal plant when, as depressed the price of coal is at this moment, you can build a gas-fired plant for less?
How many here are concerned about climate change? Put your hands up. Pretty strong, pretty much unanimous, pretty much, except the guy with the beard. You don't. No, that's all right. No, that's fair. Odd man asks the good man sometimes. Go ahead.
I'm from Plymouth, New Hampshire, and my question is for Governor Johnson. How would you make college more accessible to students of lower socioeconomic conditions?
Bernie Sanders was here today. He was very powerful over a couple blocks from here, about 4 or 5 blocks on campus. He is still for free tuition. The tuition here for in-state tuition is $29,000 a year. That covers being here, board and everything, but it's $29,000. Bernie says he's going to make it free for state college tuition. Where are you on that? That's not a libertarian solution, I don't think.
Well, I'd just like to point out the reason for the high cost of college tuition in the first place. And the reason for high college tuition in the first place is guaranteed government student loans. If guaranteed government student loans were to have never existed, I'm going to guess that the cost of college tuition today would be half of what it is, because there's a skewed supply and demand, and government has interjected itself in that. I think students have been sold a bill of goods. They're graduating from college today with a home mortgage without the home. I would certainly be open to legislation that, similar to the bailout of Wall Street, that somehow gets kids locked into a much lower interest rates when it comes to student loans. But if you're going to offer free college tuition for public institutions, what you're going to do is you're going to bankrupt the entire private university system. And the model of the future, I think, is free education. It's the Khan Academy. It's a kindergarten through doctoral degree in any subject whatsoever.
Where's that money come from?
In the case of the Khan Academy?
Yeah, you're talking about free. Well, if you don't have to pay tuition, who pays the professor?
Well, that we've become locked in this model that we have now. Libertarians are all about competition. Libertarians are all about free market, bringing competition.
Well, what
the
about
notion
how many here
of better products,
how many here
better
at UNH only because they're able to get a loan? How many? How many paid the tuition full bill? The full bill. Well, how did the other guys get here? Are you all on scholarship? Anyway, I went to Holy Cross on student loans. So you're making a hard argument.
No, what I'm saying is, if student loans didn't exist, you'd have paid half of what you paid.
I wouldn't have been able to go.
Well, or you'd have been able to pay half of it, and for a lot of kids, they wouldn't have gone to school. Okay. But believe me, if everybody boycotted college next year because of the high cost of college, guess what? Tuition's going to drop significantly.
Okay, before we go to break, I just want to say, I'm being told through mechanical information, electronic information, that there's a lot of excitement out there, Twitter excitement right now, because of what you said about Hillary Clinton and the nuclear button. You believe it would be a precarious situation if she had commander-in-chief responsibilities over nuclear war?
I think she's going to shoot. I think she's going to shoot. She's not going to be herself. She's not going to be perceived as weak. She's going to shoot.
We'll be right back with Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. You're watching Hardball at the University of New Hampshire. Beautiful room here, Huddleston Hall at the University of New Hampshire, which is celebrating its 150th year in existence. We're back now with the Libertarian Ticket. Gary Johnson, Bill Weld. We got a bunch of people, 3 people definitely lined up. Lifeline. Anyway, go ahead.
Phi Alpha, Gary Johnson.
Phi Alpha.
My name is Joseph Ramirez. I'm from Long Island, New York. I have a question regarding what do you plan on doing to combat the misconduct against African Americans and police?
You know, I do believe Black Lives Matter. The movement matters. There is discrimination that exists. Blacks are being shot at a much higher rate than whites, being arrested and actually ending up going to jail. I think as President of the United States, with the Department of Justice, that we could find the common threads where least amount of discrimination exists, best incidents of violence exist, as opposed to worst threads of discrimination, worst threads of violence, and could drive a real education from the federal standpoint.
Okay. Do you think there's bias? I mean, bias, purposeful bias.
I won't call it purposeful, but it's real. It is real. It does exist. I'd recommend everybody watch the O.J. Simpson documentary. For me, I felt like I was informed, but when
Did he do it?
Did he do it?
Yeah.
Yes, he did it.
Okay.
But why did the verdict turn out as it did? Well, it was based on everything that transpired prior to that verdict, where atrocious actions on the part of police were not prosecuted.
Can I add one thing? I think for police we need intensive training to get over this prejudice against blacks. And I've seen intensive training work. When I came into office in Massachusetts, we had a big epidemic of battered women, black and blue, every Sunday morning. And the judges didn't get it. They would ask, what did you do, sweetheart, to irritate your boyfriend or your husband last night? So we had the police come in and train all of our judges. And I backed them up. I was a former federal prosecutor. It had to be delicious for the police training the judges, right? Yeah. But it really worked.
Because they knew what was going on in the household.
They knew what was going on, and the judges were clueless, and they got it after a while.
Because the cops are called back again and again for domestic disturbance, and they got the picture.
Yeah, and the judges were just out of it. They were too old school, but it absolutely worked, and we turned it around, and I commuted the sentences of some women who've been convicted of manslaughter for trying to defend themselves with a curling iron when their husbands and boyfriends were trying to beat them to death.
Okay, we're going to come right back with more. Hang in there. We'll be right back with more questions from the University of New Hampshire at our College Tour. Welcome back to Hardball on our College Tour here with the Libertarian ticket for President and Vice President, Governors Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, our next student questioner. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Kate. I'm from San Francisco, California. I'm a student here at University of New Hampshire, and my question's for you, Gary Johnson. A lot of candidates recently throughout the campaign have been talking about cutting Planned Parenthood. I want to know what your opinion is on it, whether you would cut it or what's your stance on Planned Parenthood.
Bill Weld and I are pledging that we're going to submit a balanced budget to Congress in the first 100 days. That would be a 20% reduction in all of federal spending. We would plan on cutting Planned Parenthood 20% along with everything else. But what we would do as president and vice president is we would stand up to Republicans that would say, look, balancing the federal budget is not eliminating Planned Parenthood. Give us a break.
Okay, next question.
My name is Colin Noel. I'm from Stratford, New Hampshire. I'm a student here at UNH. This question is for Governor Johnson. With less than 2 months left in the election season, how do you plan to gain a competitive edge against Hillary and Trump?
This has got to do it right here. This right here. So thank you, Chris Mathews. Thank you, MSNBC. No, look. We keep plugging away, and by all of our analytics, we keep rising. So hopefully we will be in these second and third debates. And in my opinion, the only chance we have of winning is to be in these presidential debates. So I do think that this could bounce
Governor, where are you
forward.
strongest in terms of that 15%? Where do you exceed it in the country? What's your big states?
Big states would be New Mexico, Utah, Idaho, the Dakotas, Alaska, Maine, New Hampshire. I think we got a pretty good showing. I mean, we're at 17% plus in 15 states. So.
Hi, my name's Molly. I'm from Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. This question is for both of you. I'm a student here at UNH, and I was wondering how your campaign plans to address the rampant sexual assault that's happening on college campuses, and as well as what your thoughts are on the Campus Save Act, which only really supplies victims with second-class treatment.
Being aware of it, for starters. It is something that exists, and when you recognize that the preponderance for you to claim that you have been sexually assaulted, the odds are against you from the very beginning to the point that you just don't do it. So recognizing it, recognizing that it is rampant and that the deck is stacked against you as the woman.
How many women here believe, or men, everybody, how many believe it's a problem here as well as elsewhere?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, boy, that's a bad showing right there. Thank you so much.
It's like the battered women situation I was talking about. You got to take it seriously and change the culture, and that involves, you know, aerating it and making sure that these things become public, and then they're aerated in public, and then the sort of culture of silence and culture of wink wink is going to go away.
Next question. Thank you.
My name is Stephanie. I'm a student at the University of New Hampshire as well. Money in politics has been a huge issue throughout this election. I was wondering how your campaign is funded and how that affects your ideals.
Well, interestingly, right now, apparently Hillary is spending more money than we have trying to discredit us at the moment. So we don't have a whole lot of money. But in the context of money, I think that there should be unlimited campaign contribution, but that there should be 100% transparency, something that doesn't exist today. Something that is misunderstood is when you limit campaign contribution, basically that's incumbency protection. Nothing changes if you limit campaign contribution. It goes to those people that have a name and that things stay very status quo. I've always been also supportive of candidates wearing NASCAR jackets with patches commensurate with the size of donation.
How do you enforce that? How do you say Koch brothers on your uniform?
Well,
how do you make somebody wear the Koch brothers?
That there would be 100% transparency.
Well, how about, yeah.
So that yeah, you'd be able, as a fact checker, you'd be able to make sure that the Koch brothers did have that.
Do you think that's a libertarian idea, to make people wear costuming to show where their money came from?
Very libertarian.
Hey, I think it's a
so.
fascinating
I think it's very
idea.
libertarian myself. But I do get crossways with the Libertarian Party once in a while. But it's it's an open debate and discussion.
You can't call it one person, one vote when somebody's spending $20 million on a campaign, can you?
Yeah, but when one person spends $20 million on a campaign and publicly acknowledges that, then that's up front and center, and that person for $20 million may be able to support.
You can't turn on the television without listening to their advertisement. It's like Big Brother. It's relentless. That does affect voting, doesn't it?
Well, and if it's coupled, for example, if you have a billionaire that gave $500 million to Bill and I and gets us elected, that's going to be for the benefit of the country, Chris.
Okay, well, we'll see.
And currently you can't do that. Currently you can't do that.
I've been seeing faces turning in both directions. They don't agree with you. Anyway, we've got more questions here from the audience when we return from the University of New Hampshire. Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, the candidates of the Libertarian Party. We got a little time left, so let's get some questions about libertarianism from one of the students. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Gerard. I'm from Marblehead, Massachusetts, and my question's for Governor Johnson. I am very worried about my future opportunities. How would you reshape a government for the benefit of my generation?
So I think what government can achieve, and I did achieve as governor of New Mexico, is this notion of equal opportunity. The government can provide equal opportunity for everybody. So that's entrepreneurs and crony capitalism. Look, it's alive and well. Government does pick winners and losers, but it doesn't have to. So as governor of New Mexico, I just put an end to it, period. Right from the very start. Equal opportunity for everybody. In that context, I had the best record on jobs, at least in the 2012 presidential cycle.
Next, please. Thank you, sir.
My name is Matt. I'm from Rhode Island. My question is for you, Governor Johnson. You said that you support the Trans-Pacific Partnership in its current form and would pass it. Given the fact that it was passed in secrecy and fast-tracked through Congress without the scrutiny of the public, would you consider postponing your support for it and passing it when you're elected president?
No, I think that, and here's a pledge that the two of us have made also, is that we're going to support anything that makes things better. And we do believe that it makes things better. And free trade, in our opinion, is all about more U.S. jobs, not fewer U.S. jobs. So this eliminates a whole lot of tariffs. May there be issues with TPP? Certainly. But I think that it reduces crony capitalism as opposed to promotes it, and it excludes China. I think Bill has some things to say.
I want to use this time,
It's important from a geopolitical point of view because it gives us a strategic beachhead in Asia, not including China.
Take a couple minutes. Explain, you first. Libertarianism. What does it mean to young people here who have to make big lifetime choices about the world they're going to face?
Well, what we bring to the table is we're fiscally responsible, so we're not going to bankrupt the system. We're going to balance the budget. We're going to cut down on the national debt. So there may be some money left over for you all. And if we, tinker with Social Security, it's not to kill Social Security. It's so the system will still be there for you all when you come of that age. And anything we do with Medicaid and Medicare, same purpose. The two establishment party candidates have said, we're not going to touch the entitlements. It just shows they're not serious about balancing the budget. It's a political statement, so they don't take any heat. We're willing to take heat, but we're really doing it with you all in mind.
Socially inclusive, always coming down on the side.
Pro-choice, pro-gay rights.
Pro-gay rights.
Equality of marriage.
Yes, legalize marijuana. Look, well, always come down on the side. Always come down on the side of you and I being able to make choices in our lives, period.
Live free or die.
As long as those choices...
Live free or die.
As long as those choices don't put others in harm's way, we are against military intervention, against regime change, and we're for free trade, believing that ultimately free trade is more U.S. job.
Edward Snowden's a legal case, but philosophically, where do you stand on what he did?
Based on what I know about the Edward Snowden case, I would pardon Edward Snowden.
So we know where you stand. And in this hour, we've learned that you're more dovish than Hillary Clinton. You do, personally, wonder what she'll do if she has the nuclear trigger in her hands, right?
Yes.
You said it twice. I gave you 2 opportunities to say she wasn't trigger happy. And you said she was.
She's going to be more hawkish.
Okay, thank you.
She's going to be the most hawkish of the president.
Governor Watt, I've known you a long time. You've been a great public servant. What's the worst thing you can say about Donald Trump?
No, I think he's delusional. He doesn't study up on foreign policy. He has no understanding of the international economy. He wants to impose tariffs. He'd take us back to the horse and buggy era.
Best thing.
Oh, in personal terms, he's capable of generosity. He's not a bad guy. I know him a little bit socially in New York. He's a good family man. He's got good personals. That's why he could do very well if he just let go of this obsession with being president of the United States.
Hey, thank you. We're here at the University of New Hampshire. It's been wonderful. Again, celebrating its 150th anniversary. It is a beautiful campus and a great school, and they couldn't have been nicer to us. Thank you, gentlemen, for making this occasion happen. Governor Gary Johnson.